What's going on, running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans? Welcome to Talking in Ovals on this Monday, April 3rd of 2023. My partner in crime, Dave Hyatt's over there. What's going on, Hyatt?
Not much. It's just crazy how in life you get into these certain routines, and now it's like 33 straight weeks we've been doing this podcast every Monday night, and it's just pretty damn awesome. So thank you all for listening and for tuning in, because we absolutely love it. So thank you, everyone.
We made it into April. We didn't play any April Fool's jokes on anybody. We didn't just up and cancel the podcast. We're here. So we're still doing our thing. We're having some fun. So before we get into all the fun stuff, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate us 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth to all you know. There is always somebody that you know that has a cousin, a kid, or someone that runs track or has run track or cross country, is a marathoner now. Let them know about us. We have some of the best running stories around. I'll put us up against any of the big major running platforms, that what we're doing here is as good, if not better, than some of them, because we get some real authentic stories, and I think stories that haven't really been told very much, because runners don't get the opportunity to kind of brag about themselves too much, and we freaking should. Runners are ridiculous athletes. So definitely go out there and go find us on social media. Go search just Talking in Ovals. Before we do this week's show, got to shout out last week's show. We had Jeff Benjamin. He's a track writer for the past 4 decades. He writes for a senior writer over at Run Blog Run, and just Hyatt, the wealth of stories, people that he knew, talking to Sebastian Coe every time he sees him. Bill Rogers is a good friend of his and is always with him. Just so many cool things. Hyatt, last week's show was awesome.
Absolutely fantastic. It's just, hearing all these names, because I think a lot of times we get caught up in what's happening now, and sometimes we might forget about the whole generation of people that came during our time, or even way before us, who helped to pave the way for everyone. So it was really, really cool to get that whole perspective.
Certainly. It was certainly fun. But now we're back to focusing on this week, because this week we're stepping our game up yet again. We have Bob Farrell, director of Rutgers XC in track and field. And if you have not heard about what they're doing there, you better start paying attention, because Rutgers is on the rise. What's going on, Coach?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Doing really well. Really excited to have you on. It's always fun to have a big-time college coach here. You guys competing in the Big Ten. We had on Kadivas Robinson not too long ago at TCU. That was a great time. So we're love having on big-time college coaches. We had high school coaches on, but I just think it's fun to get a different perspective when it steps up to that level. Before we start to talk about Rutgers specifically, I want you to talk about yourself a little bit, Coach, because the segment that we start off with, and Hyatt, it's officially a segment. I'm calling it.
Yeah.
This is our opening segment that we do every single podcast. I want you to talk to us, Coach, about when did you personally get the spark of being a runner? Some of us have tried doing it, do other sports, and then it's just kind of, we're going to do it. Then all of a sudden it clicks, and it's like, man, I can run track all the time. So when was that moment for you in your life that you got the spark to be a runner?
I got into track fairly late. I mean, I hopped in some elementary type stuff, but I was always a football, baseball, basketball kind of guy, but I was always obsessed with speed, so since I was a little kid, I mean, my walls had cheetahs on them and stuff, and not car speed. I just want to know what the fastest animal was, what the fastest bird was. If I'm watching football, it's, who's the fastest player. If it's baseball, is Ricky Anderson the fastest?
So was Rocket Ismail your time?
Rocket
Ismail was the guy, right?
He was the best. Yeah. Oh, huge Rocket Ismail fan. And so I was always kind of drawn to that. I, oddly enough, never really thought about track itself a lot. So I was playing football, basketball, and baseball at East. And I didn't think basketball was going to be the one to go to college for. So I figured I'd do track, I guess. Girlfriend was running at the time. So I'm like, I'll give it a try. And it was just a big pro middle distance coach, Coach Strader just loved his middle distance. So that's where I got thrown. I kind of was up for doing anything, but I ran a lot of a lot of 4s and 8s. It was a real change from football, man. I never forget, like, when I showed up and, we had practice and we worked out, and then I finished and I said, what do we do next? And they went, that's it, man. I'm like, we're done? Sweet. I'm so used to like another 3 hours of game film, so it was cool. I had never had an individual sport. So it was pretty cool to I wasn't anticipating some of the success I was having. I still wasn't planning necessarily college for it. In fact, when I even graduated, I wasn't necessarily thinking about it. I enjoyed it. It's odd how the evolution came with track, but I got an itch for it when I got to Rutgers, and I wanted to just walk on. But at the point in time, I had like 3 seasons of experience. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do decathlon and stuff. I remember telling my dad when I was like 19 or 20, I said, because I started thinking I might want to coach. I don't know what drew me to it, but I remember telling him, maybe I'll try decathlon, like that way if I'm coaching one day, I'll know them all, I'll know all the events and I'll be versatile. And so I did that, but I didn't know I'd be good at throwing javelin. So then that became a priority event. The only snag was, I was always a pitcher and a quarterback, and my arm only had so much. So I was a little apprehensive about that. And, to keep your arm good and jab, you got to throw it right. But, trying to throw it right takes a lot of bad throws. So, if I could go back, there's a lot in my training. I know now that I didn't have a lot of control in it, but I was getting a little beat up. What was odd was I got out of Rutgers and I loved it. Rutgers, huge fan, loved being on the team. It was awesome. So that's why I always say as a coach, I'm a little more than the head coach. I'm a Jersey guy. I'm a Rutgers fan. I'm an alum, so it's very like personal. So everything that happens with the team, it's like my favorite team is doing well, so it's a little more to it. It was when I graduated and started coaching that I actually got more obsessed with it. I loved the idea of coaching because I got asked to coach football when I got back, and I eventually did for like a season, but it was almost like I loved playing football. I didn't necessarily want to coach it, but I loved track because I was an English major, but I loved physics and science and math and stuff. And I enjoyed the idea that, there was a lot of variables, you could control in a sense. It was a little more objective than the tons of variables in a football field that you can't control, and if I was coaching an athlete, there's so many different things involved in it, of course, but kind of you get this, you can possibly get this, and I just love results. I love like seeing, I think I've heard, and especially in the sprints, people drastically underestimate how much better someone can get.
Oh my God.
When it's done correctly. Yeah. It's radically, you get a few things right. And that's what I got obsessed with. You just get obsessed with, watching the athletes PR and have success. It gets a little addicting.
And you know what? I love that answer. And that's the first answer like that we got, right? That you enjoy track and field, you want to run it all. And I think your experience certainly is going to help you as a coach, right? Because you did the middle distance. You kind of want to do everything. Then you fell into field, which, Dave and I have talked, like we're not very versed in field. We're not as strong in the jumps and the throws and things like that. So having somebody that did it, that knows it on the show is great. And I think for you as a coach, that is awesome. And it's cool that you kind of got your real drive and spark from the coaching side of it, as opposed to really the running side. I think that's really awesome. But I want to let you go down a little more memory lane here. What are some of your favorite moments of your time, going back all the way as you're starting with an athlete and now coming into coaching that you have had basically through your career, running, throwing, coaching?
Just as an athlete, sort of first, or just right into the coaching?
Do the athlete first. Go give us something there. Give us some humble brags if you have any.
Yeah, I don't say this a lot. I'll say it to a few athletes, especially the ones that have had some injury histories. But I have a little bit of an edge about my experiences because I had always been told in a lot of different things, like how good I'd be, like the potential, like, he's this kind of athlete, he's going to run this or jump or throw this far. And, for one reason or another, some reasons I know from a technical standpoint, but I just kept getting hurt, and I was just getting banged up left and right. I somehow got on the track, and I mean, when I was in high school, the shin splints were crushing me, like just, I mean, I don't even know how many, I wouldn't have known I had the stress fractures because I never paid attention, but I just ran on them, and I know I had a torn labrum for like 3 years at Rutgers.
Wow.
But like at the time, no one really, I put some ice on it and, kept going.
Get the swelling down, get back out there.
Yeah, it's odd because I was constantly hurt, but I never missed anything really. But I was just like, it was an underachieving. So I kind of had a little bit of an edge there where, I don't know what it drove my entire motivation of how I coach. I learned things after of not everything had to be exactly how it was. And I had great people coaching, and I never questioned anything. They were all great men, and I learned a lot, but health is first and foremost, but I believe so wholeheartedly about that personal ability and that touch with each individual, and trying to, because you start out as a coach, and I studied like mad, and I did everything you're supposed to do, and every event, every single thing you think of, every level, anything I could do to try to learn. And it makes you kind of rigid on certain things,
Yeah.
And then, kind of once you, like they say, once you know how to know the rules very well, so you can break them properly,
Yep.
and
Right.
As I kind of got better at the whole thing, you start to realize all the varying ways you can coach something, because it turned out like a lot of stuff I was doing, I never had a chance. I look back, I went, geez, I never even was going to get that right. I was doing it completely wrong, and I wasn't getting a lot of telling someone what they're doing wrong is the easy part,
Yeah.
Everyone can do that. You
Right.
get a lot of coaches like thinking they're going to point at something and go, oh, that's wrong. If I coached them, I'd fix it. It's like, look, we all see the same stuff, it's like, but, getting that person, because it's about the person, to actually make that change, is a different kind of animal, because they're people, so.
I mean, kind of like you were saying, like you can study, you can learn everything, but that doesn't help you build a relationship or build a foundation with that athlete. Like you might know everything, but if you can't relate that or get through to the athlete, then what's the point in having all of that knowledge?
Yeah. It's and you get the athlete to believe in you in particular. I mean, it's amazing. I've seen bad coaches actually have some success because they just have a talent for making the athletes really believe in what they're doing. The belief when they get on that
buying in. Yeah, as long as you can get them to buy in. And some of my greatest coaches I've had weren't necessarily great at teaching a sport, but they were motivators, and I trusted them that what they were trying to do was the best that they could do to make me as good as I can. And I think what yours sounds like is like similar to what me and David said before. I got more enjoyment being a coach than I did being an athlete. And I had some success as an athlete. But it's like then now watching your athletes do something that you have been banging your head against the wall week after week after week, and you're telling them you're right there, this phase, this part, you're going to get it. And then they do it. And there's something cool about the fact when their eyes light up and they're looking around, and then you realize they're looking for me. They want to come find me and like talk to me about like what we have grinded on. So, I think that there is like something cool. And I think that seems like something you share, that you're getting more enjoyment watching your athletes get better in the program that you're doing, like building on it together.
Yeah. A lot of the philosophies that, I have at Rutgers and that I kind of demand that, our assistants is all built on development. There's no excuse for a college coach not to have a high percentage of success with athletes, and the injury rate should not be high, like you should be able to, make sure 80%, 90% of your athletes. I hear a lot of the talk of different things, and I don't really buy into that as much. You fall in love with this sport as you start playing baseball. It's fun. It's a game. And then football and all those. No one runs the 4 at first just because it's so much fun. No one gets into that because it's just man, that mile was the best. It was so much fun, man. You know,
I was the weirdo that actually liked running at a young age. I knew I wanted to run the mile. I'm just a weirdo.
I think,
I'm weird.
I think
they always say every high school coach, you know, it's try to find 4 guys who want to run the 4x4, and then you're doing something right. Like in high school, because it's impossible. They're like, I'm not running. They all just disperse.
But you know, this is how I kind of got into it. I didn't know it was, but when it really does become addicting. I mean, they're young high schoolers. You know, when you have great coaches, that's fantastic, and it's a huge advantage. But at the same time, boys are going to keep growing. You know, they're going to sleep every night and get older and go from 15 to 18. If you go on mile split, I mean, everybody's getting better every year. I mean, it's not significant. It's not like this or this. It's like this. And then the really good ones, obviously, are fortunate to have great coaches, you know, are really able to accelerate to another level. But that's not the case in college. It's completely different, and it shouldn't be. You know, it does become, having been a high school coach and a college coach, it's been an interesting perception, or just to have a position on seeing both sides of it. But it does get challenging, of course, because, you know, you get them to here, and then it gets smaller, the window of improvement that you got to try to figure out. You're also inheriting everything that they used to do right or wrong and trying to work through that. And if they were good, you know, then I always say if they were doing something wrong, when you let someone do something wrong long enough, they get very good at it, you know, and they cling to it, you know. So there's little challenges like that, but they lose that feeling that they had in high school when they were setting those personal records. And I inherited some, and now that it's my second year, I call this kind of year 2, because really the second year I actually had my own staff, you know, I brought in, and there's just some that, you know, when they start to not get those personal records, when they start to get hurt, they start to get really down. Even school starts to suffer a little bit. It goes on for years, you know, and you know, the only point you got obsessed with it was because you loved that feeling when you crossed the line and you had the best race or the best jump of your life. It's a tough run for these athletes, and it didn't need to, you know, be that way, you know. So I wanted to bring in coaches that had a proven track record, you know, of development. But I think it's also just a personality thing. You know, there's a lot of egos there. And I think with a lot of the values, I have like a value system I use at Rutgers, and a big one's accountability.
Go over that value system. I think be really beneficial. If you can kind of give us a breakdown of it, I think it'd be beneficial for anyone listening to kind of hear what you guys are doing over there with that.
Yeah, it's really simple how I keep it. I you know, you take as an assistant coach, an associate head coach. I played a lot of roles and a ton of things on the team, but at the same time, it's interesting. You can only influence the whole team so much in that role, and it does have to always come from the top. So, you know, I kind of learned on the run there, but I mean, it was a dream job that I got right. I got it in immediate turmoil. You know, it was like a hornet's nest that I rolled into, and then COVID, a worldwide pandemic hit. It was quite an intro, you know. And then the last year or two, you know, started with my hiring. I started thinking about the kind of coaches I wanted, and then I started thinking about the kind of athletes I wanted to work with, and really what I thought, if we wanted to be a great team, what kind of values would we need? And it turned out to be like an anagram, and that was not on purpose necessarily, but it ended up being rare, you know. So I started doing, are you rare? You know, are you, I love that, like everyone else, you know, and normal, you're going to be a rare athlete. And the first one was like reliability. And that could be phrased as trust, because you started to realize as a coach, and you look at your teammates, and you want to be able to rely and trust that athlete's done, you know, everything possible to be at their best, you know, when they get on that line. You want to make sure that they, you know, took care of their academics, that they did actually sleep that night. They did take care, because we're relying on each other, you know, we're depending on each other, and it goes both ways. You know, I gotta be trustworthy, and I gotta be reliable. You know, they got to be able to know that I've done everything possible I could do to prepare for them. So that was big because we didn't have that. We're getting it now, but making sure that we can rely on each other, because people make mistakes, but they're giving it everything they had, and that now we're starting to get that sort of camaraderie there, and then it goes to accountability, which is one of my biggest things. I said it again in Florida 2 days ago. We had a meeting up on the pool rooftop, and I said to everybody, don't forget the accountability. When not everyone, when people don't always have it go the way they want, and you cross that finish line, is your first instinct to say, you're the reason this happened to me. You're the reason this happened to me. This is why this just happened. And it's just nothing but pointing at all the things that might have wronged them to have this happen to them, never really looking at themselves. And it might be other people's role in that as well. But I said, as a team, we made I said, we're going to make a promise here, that you don't have to worry when you cross that finish line. If it doesn't go the way it goes, trust me, the coaches, we're going to look at ourselves and see what we could have done to made that better. And you're going to look at yourself and see what you could have done. But we're not going to start blaming each other. We're not going to start blaming teammates, because that toxicity will just tear it apart. It's, it's a partnership, so it's, we're not adversaries. Something didn't go right. I'm the way to help you fix it, so, and I'm just huge on that with everything in life. And that's why with the coaches, the same thing. Can I trust these coaches? Can I rely on them? That's huge. That's why I do like having coaches I've known, so I can really trust who they are. I was
going to ask you that. I was going to be like, when you were looking for coaches, did it help that you had, I'm talking mostly about Jelly only because I know him. Did it help that you had such a long relationship with him, coaching with high school, and you know him through all the years, so that you can have that trust and that you and him have the same sort of skill set, well, not skill set, but the same sort of drive and vision for what the team should be?
Yeah, we've known each other, I guess now, whatever it's been, 20 years. We even talked about it 20 years ago. We were just talking about it the other day in the track parking lot, how I just randomly said, he pulled into the head cross country parking spot, and I went, I'll get Jelly, I said, that's good. I said, that's cool. He's head cross country coach, and I said, who would have thought, huh? Matt, look at you, look at us right here. We talked about it 20 years ago. And, but it's funny how life works. I think it works out in the right way, because, I think we're better fit now than we certainly were 20 years ago, to take on the role. But, I get in college searches, everybody wants to, throw a resume out there. But I always tell the athletes, and I tell recruits this, Rutgers has a pretty good system right now in helping people find jobs. And, you always hear a lot about it's no fair, man. It's all about who you know. And I go, yeah, it is. So you better get to know somebody.
That's what college. I think
that's life.
Kids don't learn that as much. They think they're going to college to just get that piece of paper, right? But it's that piece of paper is meaningless if you didn't make real connections with people. If you didn't take advantage and really get to know people, and the scratch your back up, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, still works really well.
Yeah.
Especially if they know your character and they know your person. And it's okay, I know my dad knows this person. I know you're awesome. I'm going to put my neck out for you, knowing that something is going to come out of this well. I feel like kids aren't getting that as much. They're being told you have to go to college, but why are you going there? I think that's, are you going there to just run? Yeah, probably not the best thing unless you're already one of the best in the country, right?
Yep.
But, you got to be something there. And track and field has a great networking system because there's a ton of us on the team, men and women, and it's such a great spot. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And with recruits, I always say, we get into all the rigmarole of different things, but at the end of the day, it's you're here to get a career started after this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's about. And you're going to get that degree, but it's you're going to apply hundreds or whatever people are going to apply to that have that same exact piece of paper.
Yep.
Why are you getting picked? Because of what you wrote on it. It's you're going to get turned to the other page, and they're going to be looking to anyone that has some kind of connection to them. And I think there's some common sense there because, this is something that's really special to me. And, you're a fan your whole life. And I know that's where our slogan that I came up with, we are inevitable, because I stole it from, Thanos and the Avengers, but
I love it.
It's not like a necessarily a theory of mine. It was something I said right away. Like, this is going to happen. At some point, it's going to keep growing, and it's inevitable in that fashion. But to when you look at to going back to when they were getting jobs there.
Yeah.
But just when they when you start to look at what you want to build a program with, obviously you're going to try to go with someone that you know very well, because you have to. If we're going to, track and field is a divided sport on its own because there's different event groups, so you have this split of everybody everywhere, and you're supposed to come together at a championship and somehow be a team, and then of course distance and throws will have varied personalities and stuff, but how do you get the team, to kind of be together a little bit more? And I just always wholeheartedly believe that starts with the staff, because
absolutely.
If staff looks like this, if they all look like how close they are and how eye to eye they see each other, and they have the same vision and they're giving the same messages, I think that's how it starts. That's Absolutely. Where they're getting their ideas. But there's a lot of, when you have track and field, assistant coaches have their own group. They can kind of create their own little culture and world there. They can push them away and kind of do their own thing. There's a lot of talking and different things like that, and it does well. It just poisons everything.
I always knew the challenge was too. It's like, okay, the 10K is going on. Where are the sprinters?
Yeah,
the throwers that aren't throwing. Like, we show up for your 4x4, but why aren't you here watching this 5K? Like, there's 8 people in this 5K. Where's the 100-meter people? Like, that does become a challenge, right? And you have to build that type of group and that type of people that want to see each other have success.
Yeah, that's what we demand. I'm glad we get a lot of comments about when we go places. I always say, like, listen, when we leave this place, I want everyone to know Rutgers was here. So make sure you let everyone know. And so no one's really allowed to just lie around and sit around unless they're getting ready for a meet. So if you're there, you better be at Hammer. You better be cheering every lap of that 10,000. And that's why we're here. You're not going back to the hotel if you're not competing. You're going to stay right there. And we have to do it, so the coaches have to make sure they do it. It's nice now.
Sorry, I want you to real quick, Dave, quickly finish up Rare, because I want to hear the last two. We didn't hear RE, just quickly finish up, because then I want to let Dave go, and then I want to jump specifically into Rutgers and all that stuff, the track program.
So you got the reliability. Now the accountability, and this is huge, resilience. And these are all life traits, and I don't, that's such a big part of life, having that resiliency, because I tell them, it's life doesn't ever get easier. You just learn how to handle hard better, and managing these things. So I tell them, I have to tell them all the time, but usually all my speeches kind of say some of the same things. I go, look, I'm going to save you the suspense. Something's going to go really wrong this season. Maybe several things. It won't be some beautiful just cakewalk through right to the championship. I don't know what's going to go wrong in your life, whether you'll get sick or boyfriend breaks up or something like that, or, God forbid, someone passes. Who knows? Your school starts going down. Maybe you just no-heighted 3 times in a row. Whatever. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen for the rest of your life. So the question is, how are you going to respond to when that happens? We're all going to feel a certain thing right away, but you have to be able to. I think they don't all have the skill set that they should have, where they'll allow one thing that's going wrong to allow them to collapse everything else. They're not able to kind of compartmentalize and say.
If they want to learn about resilience, tell them to go listen to our Julie Cully podcast. I'm not kidding. Just the ups and downs she describes to get to the point of being a 2012 U.S. trials Olympic trials champion. Just tell them that they want to know resilience. Go listen to Julie's story.
That's amazing. It's a great point because these young, they only see the highlight reels,
and that's what we said. They see her being a national champion, but they didn't know she was constantly off. She was an athlete that she said it flat out, and I'll give a little wave. She would push way too hard, get hurt. Push way too hard, get hurt. And I think it would be valuable.
Get a coach, couldn't find anyone to coach her, and then finally, crying in coach's locker,
So I don't want to spoil too much because I want your athletes to go listen to that because it really does. Yeah. It's cool when you could see like this national champion is a lot.
Who went to our college? Who went to
Rutgers?
Went to Rutgers.
Was a record holder for the longest time. Is exactly like me. Pushes way too hard, goes through things, and actually quit the sport for a little bit. So definitely go there. Tell them to listen to that because it is one of their own and it would help us. So I'm being
I always point out, on the staff like Crawford, you have like long jumpers.
I actually talked to Corey on my last podcast, Sports Opinions podcast.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, Corey was on that podcast. I've talked to his dad on there. Great guy.
He's All-American and record holder, and I got to coach him those years, so I get to tell that looks good that year, right? And all these other years. I'm like, do you realize, Corey that year, he hurt his hamstring in December. He came back after that and jumped huge. And then we went into the spring after he was second in the country. And, he got mono. And then he had mono for like 2 months in the spring, and we didn't know it because he was fading. And then we had to go to Jacksonville.
Yep.
And we were running him back and forth to the hospital to see, making sure it wasn't swelled, to see. He was waiting in his preemie, just waiting for the doc to tell him he was cleared, so it's like, and yet you see him then, the Tiefers or whatever just says that he was an All-American that year. It's like, you could, Chris Mirabelli, all kinds of heart issues. Like it's the things that they climb through and get through. That's the difference, that's the difference. And they're all, the way I try to kind of help them to even learn how to be resilient is just the consistency of what they do every day. The trust in your coaches, trust in those around you. But that I do, not to be a cliche on a coach thing, but if I can, I really do hope that a lot of these things they take with them, later on, because it would, when they're 30, 35, 40, 45, be pretty cool if they, said, I kind of learned how to handle some of this stuff.
Well, that's part of why we coach student athletes, right? Yeah. You're not only coaching for an athlete. These are, they're different than high school. They're not boys and girls. They're young men and young women. And now you're trying to be a part of making them into good citizens, right? That's part of it. And I feel like track and field does, not to besmirch other sports, but the grind that we go through as track and field athletes from every level, the constant disappointment of not winning that race you thought you should have won, not getting that PR there, not doing these little things kind of builds a little bit of different character. All the little nicks and injuries and things like that, and wasn't feeling my best on that race, even though I had a great week. Like, it builds that character. And if you can kind of complete your arc as a runner, it makes you into such I think it just makes you into an overall better person. Yeah.
You got to really believe in yourself and have confidence, because you have a lot of getting to this level, you have to fail again and again and again. That's what everyone always says. And it's really true. It stings, if I'm praying and I go, give me some, grant me humility, but I'll kind of say to them, just take it easy a little bit though with that humility. Don't hit me too hard. So but the last one is
what's our E?
It's funny the team started to play around with different words because I started out with earn it, earning it, became like edge, energy. I don't like people getting comfortable, and I don't want anyone comfortable with where they are. I don't want any coaches comfortable with where they are. I'm going to wake up every day knowing that I'm going to try to prove that I was the right choice to be here. And I'm going to keep trying to do that every single day, and I'll never stop. I want everyone to, if they got a scholarship, they better damn well every day try to prove that they deserved what they got. And if they got a walk-on slot, they better damn well prove that they belong on this team every single day. I don't want, and then we had nothing but comfortable athletes, that really enjoyed just saying they're on a team, and it was amazing. I mean,
yep.
I get on the walk-ons too, because they say I was, and that was my mentality. It's like I wasn't about to go ask Moline for money and gear and all that kind of stuff. I kind of hit back and just tried to work my tail off. And
with walk-ons, they have to realize coach is trusting you to put that jersey on and compete in races. Like, it's not like you're not there. Like, you're being entrusted that you're going to wear the logo of the school proudly, go and compete with pride and be successful. Yep. So it's like there should be some pride. I would honestly, being a walk-on, you should have pride, especially when you go out and you're whooping some scholarship athletes up on that track, not just Rutgers, other schools too. So,
that was a big why. One of the reasons it's nice. Year 2, we've been really kind of hammering the culture on these things because, they know now. A lot of them get more and more nervous. But if it's not just their performance, if they're not bringing the things I just said, to the table every week, then they're not getting on that plane or on that bus. I'm not flying somewhere to watch someone not want to run or jump. I'm not interested in seeing someone, complain, or try to have drama while we're on the road. No way. No way. It's not happening. And if you got something, that's bothering you, there's a time and a place, and everything like that. So that's been starting to hammer home more and more. I remember indoor, I said that year, I go, listen, if I got to go to Big Ten with 2 people, I'll go with 2 people, but I'm going with 2 people, that are ready to compete, and win this thing. And
nice.
we did have to keep some people home to make a point.
Yeah. Hey,
got to do it.
That's it.
So listen, you've been at Rutgers for about 10 years now. How has the change to the to the Big Ten? Has that really changed everything in terms of like the recruiting process and like the expectations? Like, has that really been, that you're in the Big Ten with Michigan, Ohio State, and all those other big time schools? Like, has that been as big of a change as I would think that it would have been, or is it kind of the next step?
Huge, huge. I mean, we moved in, and when I was recruiting, I was, we had some great athletes that I was happy about. We signed, the problem was that, they were signed to potentially take 4th, 5th, or 6th in the Big East, in those events. And some events were stronger than others. But, you still would hope that, we could develop them and get them ready and, succeed. But, there was a whole different feel. They really did get into that championship, and I think we scored 1 point or something from one of my jumpers, and it was tough because it just seemed like, for a long time we weren't talking about how we're going to win this. When I was recruiting like crazy, getting people in, and it was a bit, and I got a lot of really, really talented athletes that did a lot of good things, but trying to get the team together to deliver at the right time was tricky because it just wasn't really a team the way we needed it to be. And the Big Ten was just unbelievable, the depth. I mean, it just keeps going. The mile just keeps going. The 800 just keeps going.
Ridiculous.
It's just such a higher 1%. And the recruiting had to really switch, and it was a tough transition because I understand some people, because they'll point at years ago, they would point like, but this one's on the team, that's one on the team. It's like, yes, but we've had to kind of adjust this a little bit.
So I want you to talk a little bit about those recruiting challenges, because you're at Rutgers, Jersey. We all know how deep Jersey is, right?
Saying this is the day that I started running. If you keep the instinct talent, you're going to be loaded.
But you also have New York right there. Long Island has a good tradition. Albany has a good tradition. You have some spots in Pennsylvania right there. But you're competing now against the Big Ten teams that are still going after that top Jersey talent just as hard, especially Penn State being right there. They have a good pipeline over to, southern New Jersey. But you're also competing with a lot of good Jersey and New York schools. Like, I'm over here in the MAC. Iona is freaking Iona in distance. Like, they're really good, and you're competing with those distance guys. And Monmouth has had a powerhouse team for a long time with Dylan Capwell and things like that. And, Ryder, Siena, Marist over here, we try and steal some guys away. So it's like, what has it been like now, going from, having to compete mostly with those schools in the Northeast to now you have to get national caliber level guys. Like, if you're not recruiting athletes that you don't foresee being national champions, it's kind of, is that kind of like the pressure right now?
Yeah, it's a whole different kind of athlete, whole different kind of mentality that can, go up to against those athletes, and we had to continue to find more and more that, aren't afraid to go up against the best. the moment I, had ever daydreamed about the job, and certainly when I interviewed, and certainly when I became the head coach, the certainty was that I know the day, and it's already starting, that all the schools in the country will find that it's very hard to come into Jersey and try to wrangle people away from Rutgers.
Oh yeah,
so that will be the case.
Except for Maris, throw us a few.
Yeah, we really
it's definitely showing too.
We really have the greatest home field advantage in the country. And it's unmatched because we're always in the top 5, top 6 represented at the Olympics, at the NCAA championships. And you got Florida, California, Texas, and all those. But Florida's got a whole lot of stud programs in there. Texas does. California does. There's all Power Fives in there with their state to it, it's an Olympic sport, and it's an equivalency sport. So not everyone's getting a full ride. It's not like football, so money matters. So it's like the state tuition, grants, aids, all those kind of things. It's a gigantic financial advantage. And we are the school in terms of Power 5 and size and resources in this state. These other schools are real. I think the coaches around here do a heck of a job. And Princeton obviously is a great academic institute. And they do a great job. So it's intriguing on that. But as we continue to take things to a higher level, our Dave, you wouldn't even believe the facilities now that
I've heard
quite different. Yeah,
I've heard
there's so much coming, from new track facilities, and we got a lot coming in the years to come. It's going to be, it's just, you start to say like, all right, so the 5-star super stud, the whole country is going to be coming in to get them. So that's going to always be a good challenge to try to win them over. But there's going to be tons of the 3-star, 4-stars that are not getting the full ride to Ohio State or Michigan, and they're going to have a wonderful price right here with a great education with a team that's better or as good, so it starts to become a common sense decision,
I got to say, one of my favorite tweets that I've seen in the last year and a half was New Jersey meet a chance winner and Michael Lawson going to that's such a cool thing to see these distance guys and all these guys come and staying here and knowing that this is the best place for me is to stay in this state, go up to Rutgers, compete against the absolute best, and just start kicking ass. It's so cool, seeing your tweets or Coach Jelly's tweets about this guy's coming, this guy's coming. You got it's just amazing because we've been saying since I was in school, if Rutgers could keep the in-state athletes top team every single year. There's such a funny stud.
No doubt.
We're a funny state, Jersey. We have this enormous pride, yet we love to hate ourselves in a sense. It's like always people talking about them leaving, and getting out of here. No one leaves. And when they do, they come back. They love Jersey. You know what I mean? The Jersey Shore and all that kind of stuff. I have friends that went off and they show up right back where they're at, and Rutgers, there was always this concept that I never bought into the moment I took over. I kept hearing about athletes, don't want to stay in state. I said, that is not true. That is not even close to true. They've just never been given a good reason to stay. That's all that is. Why? There's no doubt. They think about it. They might want to go away and check things out, but more often than not, no, they'll stay home. And you see it all the time. I mean, they do shoot off once in a while, and then they're on the portal, 1 or 2 years later, so the grass is not always greener out there when they see those other programs. And so it's fun that now the momentum's really catching, because not to keep going this, but I wanted to
keep going. Yeah.
It had to be, distance was critical, that had to change, because distance has to be a major face of the team. It gets a lot of attention and a lot of distance code, a lot of word of mouth. And, it's amazing how you can have a great team. And if the distance isn't good, the chatter will always be about not being good. It's like, well, there's other groups that are pretty amazing, but
there's definitely way more talk on the line of form that just seems to center around the distance events. But I mean, look at you guys this winter. I mean, Alex Carlson, we were talking about her with Julie Kelly. She's like, she went to my high school and then went to Rutgers. Now she's breaking all my records. You just had the girl break the 800-meter record this past weekend.
Yeah, right? Cassidy, she's awesome. Yeah, she's awesome.
So like,
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I knew Matt would, when I was talking to Pat Hobbs and them, about it. I said that this is not going to be as long as a process as you think. We're going to get people in, and it'll change quite quickly.
Yeah.
I just needed to get the staff together with the right people, and I said it'll start to really take off. So now it's fun, man. We go to, hopefully you guys have noticed, like you go to not just the Big Ten, but when you see articles come out, you'll see every single event group delivering something, and then every event group will set a record. We got a pretty long record streak going right now where
man.
Try to make sure one record goes down. And the idea was that, the distance, now the sprinters can look over at distance going, damn, man, they're lighting it up right now.
They're pulling their weight
on the
team.
Man, the throws, man, that guy's a beast. Well, man, look at distance right there. Yeah. That's kind of building that confidence that, like, damn, we're pretty good. We're a pretty damn good team.
So I gotta say, since you've been there, jumps have been on lockdown. Like, you have done such an amazing job. You have guys every year, and just to see that girl pole vaulter you have now, she is just an absolute monster. She's a stud.
Glad I made that call. Yeah.
I have a question for you, because it sounds like, Rutgers, we obviously know, like, I'm a Jersey boy from Manchester. Dave obviously went there. I'm always surrounded by Rutgers guys because Dave always brings on his Rutgers buddies. And honestly, you're all awesome. It's made this show what it is that Rutgers family that's there. But you guys obviously went under a huge change when you guys entered into the Big Ten. Everything became different.
Yes.
And you've been there for that transition, right? Like, you were there from 2012 and then assistant and into this level. What was it like inside the athletics facilities? Was there kind of a pressure that builds when you're seeing this team is now really starting to compete at a Big Ten level, and this team's starting to compete? And, you have Coach Goodall in wrestling, you have Coach Peichel in basketball, Coach Shiano is back for football. Now it's like, is there like kind of just maybe not the AD pressure, because obviously the AD is putting pressure on all the programs, like, hey, we're here, let's do it, we're going to get you the stuff you need, we have this money coming our way, we're going to get you guys better. But did you guys have internal pressure on yourselves, like feeling like, all right, we got to get to a Big Ten level, like everyone's starting to get there, like we need to not only have individual success, like we need to get this whole program to a Big Ten level, like that pressure is there, like is that something internal that's there?
With just internal sometimes with me. I mean, when I took over, and as soon as teams started winning, I was looking at everyone going, guys, we got to get this cooking, man. We got Big Ten winners over here. I wanted to be the first here. So it's just unbelievable, the coaches, and I marvel at how well some of these programs have done. I mean, how fast Jim and men's soccer got that cooking. Women's soccer had always been good, but he built it even bigger. And
basketball's been great.
Yeah, basketball. I mean, Peichels.
I love wrestling too with Coach Goodall and what they've done there.
Yeah,
with
they're great.
All-Americans every year. Yeah,
they're great people. It's nice. Like we do a good job in the department now more than ever. We have meetings just with the head coaches. We've all gotten to know each other really well, which is pretty huge. Because it was funny hearing the outside noise about us going into the Big Ten. And it was very short-term thinking, there wasn't anyone that didn't think we were going to get, smacked here and there for a while. It was more of like you'll be patient, you'll see, as things start to unfold. And a lot of people didn't understand how powerful it is to be in the Big Ten. Things started happening I didn't even know about. For instance, like as soon as we went in the Big Ten, applications went up. All of a sudden the admission standards went up. Everything jacked up. It was amazing. And they then you get to share research institutes. So now, Rutgers is allowed to work, they're working on cancer treatments and stuff. And now Rutgers works with Indiana and Michigan. There's all this other stuff that goes on. And they talk about the money that's getting spent. We got a phenomenal president now, Holloway, but he played it straight. Whereas the athletic department is 1% of the budget, the overall budget, 1-2%. That's it. And 99% of the advertisement, so it's you kind of understand that if we put a great product out there, that's the best way to reach California and Texas you won't have someone on the other side of the country asking, what is a Rucker anyway?
If they're seeing a giant R in like the final heat of the national championships, like they're going to be like, oh, who the hell is that? Oh, Rucker, that's at Jersey school, right?
That's at Jersey school.
They have a few people in the national championships. That's awesome.
Yeah. Like when football or basketball's, playing a night game, they're constantly commercials will be showing Rutgers campus. So it's huge, and the money, of course, that comes in just from being in the Big Ten. They just made that $1 billion deal, so that's huge. And I was fortunate, Pat Hobbs and Matt Giovanni was my administrator at the time, who really believed in my vision of what I was saying, and they kind of understood it was going to take a little time. I gave them a pretty detailed year by year of how this was going to kind of unfold and what I was going to have to do to change this safely.
And you predicted COVID, right? Like you accounted for that.
Yes,
you predicted it, saying, "Listen, we're going to be able to do
pandemic.
It's absolutely nothing for almost 2 years."
Yeah, and I will tell you, I wish that we had established this culture prior to it, because when you didn't inherit not a great culture into that pandemic, it was a little hard to, I'm already with this job nowadays, an academic advisor, a travel agent, and then I became an epidemiologist for about a year or two, and it was a little ridiculous. That was a long year. I don't know how to keep 18 to 22-year-olds, in place, and so it was asking a lot. I couldn't wait till we got out of that one, but it was going to take a lot, because to win the Big Ten, I just said this the other night as well in our meeting, was just that we're facing teams that have had a tradition for a long, long time, and yes, we have a phenomenal history of pretty outstanding alum and some exciting stuff, all through the years, but not quite the national tradition that some of the other Big Ten schools might have. We did phenomenal in certain levels, but we have to kind of take it to a national championship type level. Track's a little different than football and those things. Like it's all we got to do is, once we nab a few of these super studs here and there, it turns real quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Real quickly. So
I want to ask you, how much has the explosion of social media, Twitter, and all that stuff, how has that changed in your recruiting process, or has it not? Has it easier, harder, or
it's got everything really now. It's the quickest way to get a hold of them. They don't necessarily, trying to get a phone number isn't as easy as it sounds. You try to call schools, but you try to do this and that, but it's real easy. If I'm interested in someone, all I got to do is just look for them on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then just send them a quick message. I'll get a response in like a minute. So I just go straight to those things. But it is a really, really important lesson for a lot to learn, because we do look at that. I have seen Facebook pages or this and that I chose not to offer Recruit a Kid, just for what I saw on there that I wasn't interested in, whatever they were putting out there. So they do.
Athletes, listen up to this part. Listen up, young athletes.
It's legit. We're most certainly paying attention to those things, and you learn a lot about them. It's great. They got video on there all the time, and it's kind of like just seeing who they are. I enjoy that part of it. But social media in general, oh my God, since our day, and it's so much different, because when it was our time, you had no idea what anything was going on in other parts of the country. You didn't know what other people were running. People were able to lie about what they did. I ran and jumped this in the summer. It was always a summer meet, that it happened. But now it's almost like they think they're on, ESPN, like that, their social handle and their advertising, there's a different pressure they put on themselves when we go to compete, because this is, going to be on, online, and it's an interesting factor we've been kind of working our way out of. We have kind of dark periods now. We went to the Big Ten. I wanted to shut down social media for about 6 days as we went into it, just so that we could focus, on what we're doing. It adds smart, and it's tough on them. It adds you guys know, you were feeling it too. Like there's just so much information coming at you, too much, and
yeah.
You're learning too much about what other people might be thinking or not thinking. And they're they're constantly watching what other people are doing, so they feel like more anxiety if that person ran this or this person ran that. It's a whole, but it's for coaches too, man.
I was just going to say, like, so many coaches have told us they've learned so much from other coaches just from
it's
things that are online. Like when we were growing up, like our coaches didn't talk. I mean, our head coaches hated each other in high school.
Yeah,
Like now, like all these high school coaches, they're all talking and they're all helping out. I have a kid who runs this. He had a kid who was close to that, like 3 years ago. Like, what did you do? It's like just opened up so much communication.
Yeah, for a lot of coaches, and it's not as much the case, I guess, with the more younger ones or even our generation, but there was a time where you just it was just blind faith. This was your coach, and the other source would have been going to a library or something. So this is who you listen to. Yeah. But this generation is getting access to nonstop information. They see what the other schools are doing.
Have you found that being hard sometimes when, any athletes that maybe are iffy and they might be thinking about the transfer portal? Like, do you find that that's sometimes hard where they're just like, oh, well, that they've been watching things and like maybe they're not buying your program as much.
Yeah.
You could tell where it's coming from.
Yeah, I think you really better, be a good communicator and make sure that they, understand why you're doing what you're doing. You better make sure that everything they're doing, your training, your approach and everything, because if you're doing things and it seems to counter or not really make sense and it's not what everyone else is like, if you're going to do something that's different than what they're seeing, you better have a good reason. You're going to have to explain it. It can't be a, because I said so kind of thing.
We don't live in Arizona. We can't go to altitude. Stop watching NAU videos.
Exactly. I emphasize to them, I joke with my training, sometimes, to believe me, I can sit there and go, this is what you need to do. I mean, if you don't believe me, go home and Google it. It's not, I'm not making it up. But even with YouTube and all those, I just emphasize to them, like, that's great. You love your sport. You want to go watch it. It's awesome. But don't start doing things or thinking things like, let me know first and I can sometimes just make sense of it, for them, because you watch videos and you got to know what you're looking at because there's a cause and effect. And if you imitate what you're seeing, you don't realize that they don't look like that because they were trying to look like that. They were applying some other aspect of the technique and that's what it ended up looking like. So you're not actually doing the right thing.
Sitting down your 408 miler and saying, listen, you're not running a 355. I'm sorry. We're not there yet. Like you're not capable of. So thinking right now, if I'm an athlete right now and I'm a Jersey kid or wherever, all around the country listening right now, and I'm thinking, man, Rutgers sounds awesome. I really might want to go there. Give us some of your standards that you even what is like the bare minimum that would even start you considering a high school athlete? Just give us some events and some times just to kind of throw out there.
Yeah, from a distance perspective, if we're talking, 800 to walk on, it's going to be more in that, 154 range now. To really get just even begin into the scholarships, it's usually going to be into that low 150 range because it's when you go into the Big Ten, it's not so much running just 149, 150. You have to be able to run that in a championship when it's not staged for you, when there's not a rabbit, you're going to have it's a whole different ball game. So, just running up at BU, the perfect race is a little different than going to a championship. It's cool how distance operates that way, and
it's multiple rounds. Like you have to be able to come back
and go through multiple rounds.
Can you drop a 53 when you need it? Like that's really
So with the I mean, if once you start getting in that, like when we we're obviously with getting Rodriguez, Gabe who ran 150 last year. That's a great deal. We obviously need more and more sub 150 athletes. The mile, 420 is amazing. I mean, 430 was solid, and when we were high school, 430 was great. 420s, forget it. Now, kind of want to be around that 420 range to walk on, and the women, I mean, oh man, it's gotten so much faster. I mean, it's unbelievable. The jumps, a couple good examples would be, in the men's long jump. I was kind of saying something to someone today, like, you gotta be minimum like 23 to walk on. And to start to get some money, it's going to have to be like 24 plus. And I get a lot of emails. It's hard. I'll just throw this out right now. No one should get offended. Like when I started college coaching, I sure wanted to return every email. But there's just, they pour in, on a daily basis. And it's tricky to answer all of them, like it's my emails sometimes, in the questionnaire say, take a look at the standards, because we'll get requests, for a male miler that's like 530, and not all of them do the research on that. But if I reply to everyone, honestly, it just keeps kind of going back for.
Coach needs an intern. Coach needs an intern to pile through that can just like kind of do those types of things.
I want to respond. I'd love to, it's like, there's only so many hours in the day, but if you're a 21 footer and, you're raw and didn't have coaching, I'm like, I kind of need you to be doing 23 without coaching, just because we need you to be a 25 footer soon. And it starts to get to a different level of speed, and coordination, with, the throws. I mean, now that if you're in the if you're up to high 50s in the shot put, and, low mid 40s in the, that starts to get into scholarship range.
What's the translation from the 12 pounder to the 16 pounder, right? Like
it's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So is that what you're looking for at the 12 pounders, those 50s? Because obviously that makes a huge difference when they step up and have to go up to that 16 pound.
Yeah. We look at a lot more than the times and the marks, there's really a lot more that has to get looked at. I pay a lot of attention to how they do in the championships themselves.
Yep.
If you had this amazing thing in a county meet, that's awesome. But I need to see how well you did when you were uncomfortable, not when you were at your most comfortable, So how did you do? Did you continue to get better and better as the competition got greater and greater? So you kind of pay attention to those patterns, and you got to pay attention to just their general. In some events, it's just important, like in shot put and discus. If you're smaller with smaller hands, it's very hard to just grip these implements at the next level. It's just hard. That's one thing Clario taught me right away. You got to shake their hand and see what the hands are like. I mean, I was a decathlete. My hands weren't giant. It was harder to do it. So there are some smaller, depending how strong they are, there are smaller shot putters, but for the most part, they're going to have to be a certain size. High jump. Well, hurdles, they go up, so, height becomes a pretty big factor, so you don't have to be, but if you are shorter, you're going to have to show some other sort of traits, you're going to have to show some real speed and a few other elements that show you have other things to make that hurdle faster. And long jump, a good example is one way I recruited long jumpers to try to get those, ones that people didn't see would become 24, 25 was I just kept looking through the country for people that had a 22 foot, but I liked their 55 time or I liked their 100 time. So I could find someone that's fast.
Good burst.
And they might not be a sprinter for us full steam, but I know they got the juice to jump farther.
To jump, right?
Yeah, it's and then you really just start to this has been bigger and bigger every year. We have to get the right character and the right people. Rutgers, and I didn't know this really when I was an athlete necessarily, but I learned it as a coach. If you got someone that's not, you need one of two things. If the academics, they have to care about it, and if they're a bad student or not motivated and not going to do it, the track starts to crumble. So when a freshman first comes in, I'm mostly just hammering the academics to get that stable. Some are just brilliant and they do great. There are others we help get in and they're not the best students, but then you hope we got to find people that are obsessed with track. Like they want to be the best in the country, or they want to go pro, or they want to at least compete at, USA's Olympic trials. So it means enough to them that that's going to get them to do what they need to do to get the degree and stay eligible, and just the character, man. You gotta, I like nowadays, I'm catching more and more people that come from great high school teams, so they're coming from some winning teams. And the nice part about that part is they understand the concept of wanting to win a team championship.
We had Coach McCafferty on from CBA. He was on here and he talked about building that culture and the expectations where we're CBA, we know who you are. And if you step on this team, you know what your expectations are. We're trying to be dominant. We're trying to, win states every year, compete at a high national level. And that's kind of what you're talking about there. If you get a kid from CBA, you know that they're already coming from a program with high expectations.
Yeah, they get the concept of, that you're going out there to score points. There's an individual factor, but the fact is in life, you when you're doing something for a greater purpose, something greater than yourself, you're gonna, get more out of yourself. I've years ago, one girl told me, she was a phenomenal. She's a phenomenal leadoff leg, really super fast in the 4x1, and her 100 was fast, but not quite as fast. And I said, we got to kind of connect that a little bit. And she said, she goes, well, my teammates are kind of counting on me. And I said, see what you said right there? Your teammates are counting on you in that 100 too. So everyone admits that when you feel like your teammates are counting on you, you can actually take things to another level.
Yeah.
So why are you just doing that in the relay? It's we're trying to win. So you should be driven. If it's two people on the line and this one person's just doing all for themselves, and the other person's got people counting on them and doing it for the team, I give that one the advantage, on what they're going to, if it's all equal and what they can do that day. That's taken some time and a pretty constant, relentless effort every day at Rutgers to switch that. The men had won a Big East, and had been in the top three, and so there was there was something there. The women had not been up there at all. Super some studs that came through. But I'm excited. I'm so pumped to give the women alum and everything like a championship women's program. I've always felt like that could be just an all-star program. I'm like a fan that got their hands at the wheel,
And you have control now.
Yeah. So I'm glad that some are starting to reach out, man. It's moving. I want to move it faster, but I want so much of the alum and everyone to get back in the picture, anything and every way we can, just coming to meets, just keeping in touch, it's, and then really kind of deliver, like they can start to like get real excited, and follow us. They're starting to, but I want more, I want everyone.
They are definitely getting excited. It's definitely some conversations that I've had with a lot of people who have gone there and we're like, hey man, look at what they are doing there. And it's phenomenal. It's so fun to
say
watch.
We say that our team, I say it in team meetings, I go, guys, there's people out there, that you're running for, that you're jumping for,
that are coaching you right now.
Yeah. They're coaching. They see you do great things, like when you're putting that uniform on, there's more going on there. So yeah, we kind of wanted to emphasize that we're going to kind of begin that tradition, that era that, takes us to a Big Ten title. Winning it, that's got to be the game plan.
So I want to, before we go, one last thing I want to ask you, because you're over at the Big Ten, one of the major conferences, along with like SEC, ACC, Pac-12, Big 12, all that. We constantly are on the show trying to pick the brains of our guests. How do we get this sport to reach more casuals? How do we get this sport to get bigger? Now, honestly, like ESPN does a pretty good job putting on some of the major conferences on TV, but there's no pomp and circumstance, right? Nobody knows that the Big Ten championship is going to be on. Nobody knows that these sports are going to be on. It's just kind of something you either have to be a mega nerd or you stumble upon it and you're like, oh, I kind of want back. I'm going to watch it. So what can we do to kind of attract more casuals? Because the champions and the great runners in the Big Ten are our future United States champions and international as well. There's a ton of international athletes that come to our colleges and our universities here and are competing and winning national championships. So maybe not only to see just the Americans, but the next great runners of the world are in these big 5 power conferences, obviously other ones as well, but for the most part coming from those. Do you have any ideas on what we can do to kind of get this to reach that casual level where the Big Ten championship is profitable to advertise for a major sport? And the great athletes at Rutgers that go and win a championship, that are going to go to nationals, that are going to do these things, get what they deserve in terms of notoriety right away. And I know we didn't touch on this, but maybe an NIL deal, because there's no reason why Rutgers athletes being in proximity to New York City and everything we have can't get some decent NIL deals. And I don't know where you feel or where you stand on the NIL, but there's no reason that couldn't be a thing.
No, yeah. Well, the NIL, I like the concept of athletes, being able to make money on their name. I mean, it's autographs, and you're going to wear jerseys, this and that. But they just open the floodgates. I mean, it's a
There's no
madhouse.
rollout.
It's ludicrous, But it's like right now, it'll pull, the reins will pull in eventually. But right now, it's the wild, wild west. It's everything that it went from the strictest things in the world where you had to watch out about what you put on their bagels, and the next thing you know, there's no rules. But I love, when we were young, I wasn't even a track guy, but I knew who Carl Lewis was. I knew what was going on. These were on television as major sporting events when they were occurring. And I mean, it's amazing how little people know about track and field. The general, not even just, the good people, they just don't even know what these events are and
Correct.
What they know. And they're missing out. My niece is a shot putter, and I always kind of tell her, I'm like, man, if you could ever see what a shot put comp in the Big Ten is like at the championship, I'm like, you're going to see a loud. I mean, it's fantastic. The energy that's in there. I always heard this one idea,
and different with how excited they all get for each other. It's the only sport that you could be competing, and then if you're with each other all the time, Big Ten athletes,
especially in the field events.
In the field events, they're constantly with each other, hanging out. And then when they know someone gets a big PR, you're competing against them, but you're excited for each other. It's such a weird, different world in the field event.
It is. It really is. I love the idea. I know it'll probably never happen, but I always loved one of the only sports that doesn't have a true professional league. I would love
talk about it all the time.
I would love that. I mean, if you were to actually assemble teams that were actually brought in from professionals, like actual college people could possibly get drafted to a team or something. And if you told me and you gave me a lineup of these athletes saying they're going to have a dual meet, that I'm going to watch, and they're going to go head to head, I was like, I'm watching that.
Oh, yeah.
It's so much better. It'll be quicker. Yep. It'll come at you fast. No one has the attention span for a whole track meet. It's those dual meets were like 2 hours. And they get exciting by that 4x4. They're
hardest part we've heard from that is guaranteeing that certain athletes will go to certain meets. Whether it's sponsored by Nike and they wear Adidas, or there's so many factors that go into having your top athletes stay in America to compete. The other thing we talked about is there's not a lot of track only facilities like there's over in Europe. I mean, you have Eugene and places like that, but we're lacking there. Indoor, we have it down pat, but outdoor, if you're not at an actual college, maybe what's that one in New York, Icon Stadium, but
Icon.
That's it.
Being that small, there's really no track only places to.
No, that's right. It's true. Yeah, not a lot of neutral spots. Indoor, there are some neutral spots, but that is a challenge right there. Yeah, I think most of them find their way onto colleges.
Or high schools. The ATL is doing a lot of high schools.
American Track League.
Yeah, a lot of the colleges. I mean, there's so many. I mean, we'll go to North Florida for, they have meets. I mean, it's not like all of them don't. I mean, what am I thinking of? We always go to Sacramento.
Mount Sac.
Mount Sac. So those facilities are there that would probably love to host things, I assume.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a massive undertaking, but, that'll make money. I mean,
what pisses me off that we always say massive undertaking, distance runners specifically are a bunch of nerds. If they go on to become athletes and runners, they usually go on to be big times in companies or engineer, something crazy. There's a ton of deep pocket runners that could be doing something in putting this together, right? Banding together to make the sport we love, and whether they realize it or not, they could become billionaires and millionaires and there's huge money to be made here.
We need someone. There's the XFL. They decided to make a different league.
Where's the Rock at?
So we're just going to do that. Suddenly you got the golf live side. They're going to do that. Get someone that's got the money that just says we're going to get some investors and we're going to do our own thing. And
we got to find out who knows a Saudi prince, and then we're in. We'll just go get a Saudi prince to track.
That would. I mean, oh man, I daydream about that. That'd be a lot of fun because I know one of the. I mean, they're getting better, I suppose, but it's just no one's going to sit around for 3 days and watch it all day long. It's just it's too much.
But you can have like certain events at like certain meets. Yeah,
they can mix it up like that.
There's so many ways, to do it. It's just a matter of, hopefully in our lifetime. I definitely think the Worlds being here at Eugene last year was huge. That got a lot of publicity, a lot of attention. It was on TV, But the other thing is the biggest place where they have track meets is on Peacock, and it's a paid service. Like they have reruns on NBC at night, but everyone knows what had happened because it was on Twitter.
Yeah. To that point about Worlds, where's the momentum? We had Worlds. What are we doing now?
I think this indoor was really big.
Was big and it was good, but it's like, where's the major athletes from Worlds? Where's Noah Lyles? Where's Sydney Sweeney? Where's the thing Mo? Where are they? What are they doing? You know what I mean? And like college kind of takes the highlight, right? Like you guys over there, you guys take it up, but it's like, man, if we you got to be a nerd to really enjoy the college stuff, right? You got to really love track.
Yep.
We need to have the pros being promoted more. And Dave, I like what you're saying with Worlds and stuff, and I get it, but we got to build on it. So Dave, me and you need to get famous, and we need to start putting our money.
Yes, please.
Oh man. So Coach, this was fun, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, Coach, I've known you since high school, and I've watched your whole journey as an athlete to a coach, and I can speak for a lot of alumni. Rutgers is in wonderful hands with you and your coaching staff, and we're so excited to watch this journey with you. And just know that every time that you tweet, like, we got this person coming here or this person, we all feel it. We all feel pride, and it's just been an honor. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on the show. It's greatly appreciated, and absolute best of luck for.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah, it's not just about like, we want to, you want to see the athletes PR, but I can't tell you how much of my motivation is to like deliver a winner to, the track world in New Jersey, and to, give like the high schoolers and all that, like a real team that, they're like, Rutgers track, that's where they kind of grow up. That's why I'm not getting into it now, but that's why I kind of started club and this and that. I'm trying to get them younger and being able to work with them. I want more and more to kind of grow up through Rutgers track and field, and get to every high school coach, and in ways that not just recruiting, but it helps open windows to help coach.
I know Coach Scott Baker and Coach Jason Griffin will probably be interested in something like that. They both have talked about wanting to go to the youth and do some club things. So those are two guys I would definitely possibly get in touch with about doing the club thing. Now, before we go, is there anything you'd like to promote? You want the Rutgers Relays? Talk a little bit about the Scarlet Knights Track Club. What do you want to talk? Do you want to promote something there?
Oh, the Scarlet Knight Track Club is kind of 10 years ago. I had wanted to do something like that, just because when it comes to, the wrestling has the wrestling club, and it's a huge deal. And when you're when I'm the head coach, say, of the club, well, when an athlete is in the club, I can coach them. So if a high schooler is in the club, I can work with them regularly. I can go to a meet and coach them. I can talk to them anytime I want, so we have club members that I'm texting with and helping them and coaching them along the way. I mean, you literally, we become part of your coaches and staff. And so we have a lot of the youth and that come up, but we also have a lot of the high schoolers. So I haven't been going nuts promoting it really, because I'm kind of patient with it, but I know it'll be huge just because our resources, you just can't beat, going to the bubble and some of the things we're doing. And I think that they're really liking the touch that we have with coaching it, but it's different than other things. I want it to be like, I want the high school coaches to want to come and it's not like really a verse kind of thing. It's really more like, come in, I'm going to do some hurdles with them. You got to come and just do it with me, and stuff. It's really more of trying to also create a camaraderie with all the high schools coaches, and working together and having us be a resource for them to help, in any way we can, if we can. And it's, it's great just because the high school, our coaches get to coach, and then it's a feeding system. So once the kids come in the club and they start developing, but our post collegiates, they coach with me as well. So it becomes sort of a way for the post collegiates to compete for a club, but also be able to make an earning, so they can still train at Rutgers, and they can kind of recruit more and more people to work with, and they get excited working with a lot of the athletes. But it's also signing people like Bryce Tucker will run with us in the club for U20s and stuff. There's a lot to it. I just am so busy. It's been moving, but I'm not in any rush. But I want it to be something gigantic. I'm looking forward to hosting meets and everything, and making it big with summer meets, and it just, I want it to be I want Rutgers track and club to literally be huge, like
just
take
a big
over.
web, just a big web, and I love the way that sounds. So
it'll be a big machine,
Rutgers Relays, talk a little bit about that for us.
Yeah, we only hosted Mets a lot, maybe Rutgers Invite. Turns out I did so much work in history we didn't have the best record keeping in between the men and women. There's so much stuff out there that so I spent like 2 years researching every track and field news you can imagine online, and but like Rutgers Relays comes up a lot. It kind of went away after Wallach and Gags were gone, so, but it was a very popular meet. Obviously I wasn't there for it, but it was very, very popular. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of bring that back. I want it to be a big high school attraction. So, we're going to have college teams, which is great, but I want it to eventually be a decent high school showcase, so people can kind of come on campus. It kind of blends with Penn Relays, but it's just, we got a great facility, and the NJSA hopefully will start kind of noticing how well we host the meet, so we were supposed to host it, and then
I always wondered why Needed Chance was not at.
Yeah, we had it, and oh, God love him, he's known him forever. When Bill passed away,
Bill was great.
It kind of killed it. Then COVID kind of slowed it down a bit, and now I got to try to wrangle it back, because I go to these Meet of Champions. I know how much better, we can do. Just got to get we put up stands and we do all that. Seating will not be an issue, but you got to kind of look at the right things. It's like seating's good and all, but you're worried about the seating, but that javelin runway is going uphill on grass with holes. The pole vault's going in different directions. The wind is in different directions. That's not good for the athletes. It's set it up so they can perform well, and people don't sit in the stands. They carry around the fence.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's like we got
the athletes go in the stands. They make their little cubbies in the stands.
Yeah.
But you know what? But why would you not want it at the state university of your state? Talk about free promotion and
guys, it's NJSIAA.
I know.
That's all we got to say. That's really all we got to say right now. I know you're trying to be nice to him, Bob, but
Miss Bruno.
It's all we have to say. So once again, he's Bob Farrell, director of Rutgers XC in track and field. Go find him on Twitter at Coach Farrell _RU. Go keep up with all the athletes that they keep bringing on constantly. Keep bringing on some of the top-notch athletes. If you are an athlete out there running anywhere near those standards, go look at the standards online for men and women. Get in touch if you're there, especially if you're a Jersey athlete. Don't go away. Yeah, stay home. Go to Rutgers, and if you don't want to go to Rutgers, come to Marist. That's the other choice. There's only two options there. But all right, everyone. Coach, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, man. Good talking, guys.
Everyone, we will be back again next week with a great show. Like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars. Spread this word of mouth. Find us on the socials at Talking in Ovals. Thank you so much, everybody. So long.